And we are live. Hi, everybody. I'm Marcy Kearns, Associate Artistic Director of Milwaukee Chamber Theater. You have joined us, or will be joining us. We'll check this out later for the final talkback of our virtually reimagined 2021 season. Thank you, and thanks to members of the creative team of the Thanksgiving Play for being here today. Laura, Jim, Kelsey, Shabla, thank you. Shabla, I know you couldn't be with us last week because you were on the road, so I'm delighted to be able to grill you today.
Do it.
Looking forward.
Well, you know, some of these talkbacks have been coming down as sort of a part one and a part two for each of these productions. And I left last week's as a little bit of a teaser for a part two. I would love to throw your way this question to start. And anybody who is watching now, feel free to post questions in the comments and I will catch them as they come up. But here's the question. Has Thanksgiving changed for you? How has it changed? If so, anything you're willing to share? What happened to you guys traversing this process with Thanksgiving? What's the deal?
Shabla.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the great things about this play is that Fast Horse does a great job of balancing satire with truncating some real information that we might not know, right, about the various traditions of Thanksgiving. Certainly some of the early colonial history I wasn't aware of, especially when it comes to the history of the Southwest. That stuff I wasn't privy to. And I think overall it's made Thanksgiving more complicated, which is good. I think it's good. It's our relationships with it, you know, like it's not like Fast Horse to condemn anyone or anything outright. I mean, she does a great job of really balancing the perspectives in the play, and I think that is exactly now how I feel about that holiday, which is to say, I don't think there's ever, and I think I would imagine she would probably agree with me, I don't think there's ever a reason not to get together with people and be thankful for things and to look back on traditions, and all that's valid. But it's obviously worthwhile to acknowledge the way that these traditions are freighted with erasure, and whether or not we partook in that directly, it's what's come before us. And again, that doesn't mean that it's something that is to be roundly condemned. It's just more complicated, and I think that's one of the big things we need right now is just more ability to live in nuance and complication.
I agree.
Awesome, Eric. Thank you.
How did you, for those who may be watching for the first time too, I'm going to throw a question to Kelsey and Shabla. So Kelsey, you might have traversed this just a little bit last round, but I'm curious about character development. If you have any thoughts about what it was like to interact with characters, and then also being partners, character to character, you're playing partners as well.
You should start with that. That's a good question for you.
We did that. I don't know. I don't want to speak for Eric, but for me, I've only worked with Eric. We've been together for almost 5 years. Yeah. And we've only been on stage together where we had lines to one another one other time. We were playing Phoebe and Sylvius and As You Like It at American Players Theater. And this strange thing happens for me where, for Thanksgiving play, we didn't have a backstage culture, really. We weren't doing a run of a play. It was very much, we're on set, we're doing the play, we're going to record the play. But being on stage with Eric, he becomes someone else to me in this weird way. And so I think with Logan and Jackson, there are definitely parts of our dynamic as true life partners on that stage, for sure. But in terms of like the way that they relate to one another, more generally, it's us acting, and it feels like I'm up there with somebody else who I can trust implicitly, but somebody other than Eric Chabla, which I have to say is a testament to his very fine acting. So good job, hon.
Oh, so stop. Yeah. I think, I mean, there's not that much to add to that. I think the best thing about it is just that you can, there's a level of trust there that just is, just goes without saying, and there's a shorthand. But yeah, I think, I could imagine it might be hard for certain people. I mean, I think I experienced this a little bit doing As You Like It, where there were moments where I felt like I really had to impress you. And, because just because there's more at stake in some ways, right? Like, oh, I really respect this person, and I have to go home and deal with them. And if I am not pulling my weight, it's not good. But I didn't feel that at all in this, and I think I'm lucky to be on stage with somebody who doesn't make me feel that way. And so there's this kind of total freedom. And I think, like you said, Kelsey, that being able to allow yourself imaginatively to go to the place where you're like, okay, you know what? I don't know this person. This is this is genuinely a different being that I'm dealing with. I think that helps take some of the pressure off for me.
Yeah.
Can I chime in here? Just for a moment. So because of the COVID and because of all the protocols and all of the restrictions, it was like such a happy accident to have actual couple that could be in close physical proximity to each other and could kiss and could embrace, because, things, I mean, with this COVID, information changes every day. Like we just heard from the CDC today, like if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. So like our information changed drastically, but when we were in the planning stages, what I was told was that I had to keep people 6 feet apart all the time. Now that morphed a little bit through our process because we were getting vaccinated, and it was like, you can do 3 feet and you can be close, but only for a short amount of time. But the fact that I was able to start the play with an actual couple where we didn't have to worry about any of that, where they actually could be that close, was really freeing. And now I kind of don't want to do it any other way. You know what I mean? It's like, this is such a great dynamic to have a couple as this couple, that's how I would always want to do it.
Thanks so much for that, Laura. Laura Gordon, everybody, who directed the Thanksgiving play. I have another question for you specifically, which takes us back to the very beginning, even before the pandemic. What drew you to accepting the directing post on this play?
Yeah, well, my first read kind of made me not want to do it. I read it and I went, wow, this is some intense satire. I'm not sure I get it. I'm not sure I'm the right person to lead it. Mm-hmm. And, I told Brent that, and then I read it again and I started to get it more. And I think for me, not only the fact that the playwright is such a genius in what she's trying to do, but it was like those interstitial transitional scenes that are based on actual material that we teach children. that seemed like such a amazing counterpoint to the play that she had written. So that I began to like wrap my brain around it a little bit more. And I've also just over my career have, I've usually been able to embrace the fact that if something scares me, it's usually a sign that I should work on it.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I was really happy to take it on, and everything that's had to happen over the course of, you know, what you originally planned to do, and then you pivot and you pivot and you pivot and you change the date, and you're like, we're going to record it, and I feel like we were able to troubleshoot some things in a way because of our limitations that I'm not sure we necessarily would have found without those limitations.
Would you mind giving an example of that?
Sure.
Yeah.
And some of it has to do with those transitional scenes. And like one of the protocols that was very clear coming from our unions and the CDC was that we were not allowed to have people singing together in a room without masks on. And so we're like, how do we do this? Well, maybe we have them record from home. And then when we get in a room together and take the masks off, we have to do bad lip syncing. And there was something so kind of homemade about that idea. And I don't know if you all have noticed it, but one of my favorite moments in those transition scenes is Eric Schabla forgetting to sing some of his track. And then he realizes he's not singing his track and he cracks himself up, and then he sings and he forgets again. I mean, that's gold, right? Like those little moments that just happen because of the way we had to construct things. I just love it. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's one example.
I also love, and I know that there are some friends watching tonight who didn't get to hear the story that we mentioned last week about Bill the horse.
Oh my God.
Would you mind telling the story of Bill the horse?
You tell it, Kelsey.
Yeah,
well, we were out doing this. Well, if you haven't seen it, or, you know, if you have, we're out there doing this kind of like after school special hip hop rap about Thanksgiving. And it's just bad in all different ways. But it has to do, we're rapping about police violence ultimately. And so, you know, we're out there, we're kind of gathered out on the square in the Third Ward. And all of a sudden, this cop on a horse, we see him in the distance and we're like, wouldn't that be hilarious? And then we start recording and he moseys on over to our group. He's like, hey, can I be in it? And we were like, yes, we would love you to be in it. Absolutely. Thank you. What can we do to put you in this immediately? And so he just stood on the side. He had God bless that man, but his horse's name is Bill. And he made a cameo and, you know, he stole the show. It was perfect.
I have a question. I have a question for Jim, but I'm gonna hold that off for a moment because we do have a couple questions from an audience member about crafting the joining up and the linking, the unlinking, unjoining between the couple.
That would be on Kelsey and Eric. I was like, what do you guys want to do? And they just did it. And I went, yay. Yeah. Yeah. That was them. That's all them.
Beautiful. And here's another moment, a specific moment. We had audience members who were watching very specifically. Kelsey, when you leaned on that table and it slid backwards, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment of comedy. Was that a happy accident, or was that something that was built in?
That was 100% Laura Gordon comedy. That was going, okay, I think, what if you're trying to be like really cool and then you fall? And
that was 100%. I wanted things on wheels. 100% Jim Guy giving me everything on wheels, because when things are on wheels, you can do whatever.
You can move things quickly and you can do a fake stumble. Yeah. So I'm glad it looked real to some people. That's the kind of stuff that you have to do it. You have to do it technically like 45 times and get it in your body to the point where you can be like, oh, I can do this and make it look like I just did it. But there's something technically happening in my body where you got to find the funny, or else it can be really broad and just not work. So hopefully, hopefully it was somewhere in between.
It was one of the things that made me do a spit take for sure.
And it was
great.
so refreshing to find a director and an actor who realized that things on wheels move. The lights came on. It was glorious. Wow, look, they know that this is going to happen when you do that. That's glad.
Jim Guy, thanks for hopping in here. I would love to share anyone who doesn't know the masterful Jim Guy. He is nationally and I think internationally known too, right? As a long-standing expert in props, we were fortunate enough to have him work with our scenic designer Jason Fessel on the Thanksgiving play. Jim, can I ask you what was the prop that made you most gleeful to create, or the part of the set dressing that made you most gleeful to include?
Oh, this is a multi-part answer, I'm afraid.
Bring it.
The things that I enjoyed doing in the theater the most was creating the bulletin boards and putting stuff up there that worked for the play thematically, would also entertain the actors, because actors have a lot of time on stage where they don't really have a whole hell of a lot to do while other stuff happens around them. And so I kind of consider myself the cruise director in those situations. But building the bulletin boards, I amassed a ton of stuff. You guys didn't see but 2/3 of the stuff I brought with me. And then arranging it for color and balance and being careful that things did not distract from a moment or a look or something like that. The thing overall that I think was the most fun was the posters. My graphics person, Mindy Knoll, who is a goddamn genius to begin with. I've never seen anybody as good as that she is at this sort of thing. I intentionally chose plays, or in some cases made up plays, that Mindy didn't know much about. And then I would give her the crappiest Cliff Notes idea of what the play was about and tell her, and if this was funny, it'd be nice. And Minnie is a naturally funny person. So she would come up with a couple of ideas, and many times she'd say, is this too much? And I would say, how about a little farther? That was great fun to do, because I knew most of those plays fairly well, and I could summarize them badly so that Mindy could be the high school graphics person, the best kid in the art club who hadn't actually read the play, and did the poster from that.
Oh, beautiful.
I was really delighted. I hope, Eric, you enjoyed your curtain call image.
Oh, yes.
By your poster.
Yes. Oh my.
Just fine.
That was just great. Yeah. Genius.
If I may throw a question that's to all of you across the board in each of your disciplines, what were some of the hurdles, or beyond what Laura's mentioned, what were some of the discoveries that you had because you had to build this for the camera, on stage for the camera, making a what we've taken to calling a play movie? Not quite theater, not quite film.
I will steal something that I recently heard another actor say that I think is so true. And, I think the most difficult thing about running a play or producing a play in this way is that you don't have the process of the run. So you don't have the growth period between rehearsal to tech to opening to midway through the run, to the end of the run. And as actors, you learn so much by running the play over and over and over again, and you learn so much from your audience. So to not have that information from the audience and to not have the opportunity to try things was really difficult. Unfortunately, I don't know the name of this actor, but Eric and I were watching on PBS, we were watching this Romeo and Juliet that they did at the National for film. And the guy who was playing the friar said, the run is in the takes. And that if you know you get 3 takes, you have to take your run and grow in 3 takes. And that's all you get. And you know, I think I wish I would have heard that before we recorded. But now, next time I have to do this, hopefully never again, I'll understand. But I think that's really true. I think you just, you got to shrink down your process as an actor and make it camera worthy instead of for a live audience.
Thanks. Anybody else want to address something that?
Oh, I just agree with Kelsey. I mean, I think we would be so much better at doing it now. having learned what we learned. Like, the learning curve was huge. I learned a ton. I had a great experience, and you know, I had the luxury, the privilege to work with our videographer and, you know, kind of participate in the editing process. And so I learned so much. And I thought, oh my God, if we could go back and do that, I could fix that. I could frame that. Why did I make, you know, and it's so weird because it's this combination of things, right? It's the combination, obviously, of doing a stage play and then trying to film it. But it's also these COVID protocols, right? And when we started, one of those big strictures was like, we needed all of this space and you needed to keep people really far apart. So we had this big stage and that's keeping people far apart. And then you want them close together when you're filming them, you know? So it was like that whole learning curve. And you're like, I want a tighter shot of this. Anyway, it was fascinating.
In my freelance career, I shot a fair amount of video. An advertising agency in the greater Cleveland area liked my work and picked me up and sent me to a lot of photographers. And we did the Ohio Lottery commercials and all kinds of things. And so I pretty much knew what the power of the shot was. This was kind of a weird middle ground between that and doing theater, because I love details, as you guys all know. And it was difficult to punch up some things that I thought should have been maybe a little more subtle. And at the same time, I had to remember, I don't just prop for the audience, I prop for the actors. And so I could still introduce enough small detail, enough little things to help the actors to support the performances and also to be the cruise director when people got bored. So it was an interesting synthesis of my experience in commercial work, and this is the thing, and that other stuff is just the stuff that surrounds the thing. And working like it was just another play that I was propping for a group of actors, most of whom I had worked with, if not a few times, even many times.
Thanks for that. I think we have time for one more question, maybe two. So this is one that's been simmering a little bit. What was most fulfilling for each of you as artists working on this project, if you haven't already mentioned it?
I think it's always fun when you get to be transgressive, you know, and somebody gives you permission to be transgressive. And I think that I just have to shout out Laura for that, for giving us permission to be dangerous, you know, and with the comedy. That's what clowning is about, you know, and that's really what satire is about. But I think, and that's something I wish, you know, sort of to relate it to the last question a little bit. I mean, I wish we would have had an audience so we could have in person, so we could have seen how far can that go? How far can we push that? How dangerous is this? You know, So yeah, I just think being given permission to surprise yourself and take some serious risks is cool.
I think this was the first time that I was gathered in a room. I was gathered with people during the entire pandemic. And I don't know, this is a play that will live in my memory forever because I hadn't been on stage in over a year. And then to come back into the room and gather with artists that I'd worked with before, some who were new to me, and my partner, it was kind of, I don't have the words to tell you what a relief it was to be an actor again. Because I don't think I'm alone when I say I wasn't sure when or if that was going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was the actually getting into the room was incredibly moving. And then the day that they took their masks off for the first time to do a run through was sublime. And just, yeah, like I felt like I could breathe for the first time in a year. And I think you're right, Kelsey. It's like I didn't know my future as an artist, as an actor, or as a director, or whether I could, whether it meant anything.
Right.
You know, like you're questioning your identity over the last year for sure. And to be able to gather with such an incredible group of actors, an incredible design team, and a brilliant stage manager, like people who mean so much to me personally and have been such an important part of my life and my trajectory as an artist in this town, and that everybody was willing to sign on and go, yeah. I mean, of course they did, because we haven't worked in a year. It's like, come on, let's all get together. But it really did feel like an amazing assortment of humans together creating something. And I feel incredibly grateful.
I got the opportunity to do the thing that I love to do most with some of the people that I enjoy working with the most, and the bond of trust and communication and the shorthand that they've developed, and the fact that I got to talk to actors about what I could do to help them do their jobs best, because I'm the only one who pays to see the furniture. And it was just a gift. I've got to do it twice in the last year, and the more people you get in the room, the better it is. And this was great. And to watch you guys discover performance again and discover the give and take and the wonderful thing that live theater is there in the room with everybody else was just, it was reinvigorating. And it probably put another couple of months on my career. Who knows?
I know that we need to wrap up in a moment, but I would love to ask this, that I have heard artists say, now we know we're preaching to the choir here when we talk about how important our work is and the work of any art is for healing and nurturing the soul and the human and reminding us what it means to be human. But I've heard artists say recently what they feel like there's a renaissance coming. Do you feel that, or have you thought about that, or have you seen it, or in what respect? If so, what do you feel is coming for the theater? Besides its reckoning that it's traversing right now?
I think there's a lot of things coming together right now that are not only because people are desperate to get into the same room together because they've been separated for so long, but also all of the social upheaval that has gone on before and during this, and that in conjunction with this, getting real live people who might not necessarily be the typical theater audience jazzed enough about live entertainment to experience theater. and see if it's for them. And you know, once you get them in the room, it's going to be for them. So I think that there is definitely the possibility of a renaissance in that respect.
Anyone else have a thought?
I wonder if big changes are coming for the medium itself. I mean, in terms of you know, now that everybody's being compelled to shoot stuff, you know, that there's going to have to be a conversation about how we what is there a middle ground to be found between the techniques in film and theater? Like, is that possible? And does it improve? I mean, part of the question I think that kind of plagues us in this industry in particular is access, is who gets to see this stuff, because it's expensive, tickets are expensive. And if, you know, if filming something in addition to doing a live run of it can improve access and improve the availability of this stuff, regardless of class, I think that is probably a net positive for us.
Yeah, I don't think there's really going to be much going back from at least providing this as an option, along with, you know, and that access is, I mean, it's absolutely about ticket price and accessibility and reaching a wider audience. It's also been really incredible to see over this last year, working on things where people's friends and family who are across the country who wouldn't necessarily be able to see the work can see the work. And there's like a bigger net, you know, a bigger community that has developed out of this crazy time, and I don't think that there's any real going back on that. I don't know.
With that, I think I'll leave us here. Thank you so much for being here, Laura, Jim, Kelsey, Eric. I'm so grateful. I'm feeling a little nostalgic already, because like this has been such a long haul for MCT this spring, and here we are at the button of our season. And I'm so grateful that you've been a part of it. So do take care. Have a wonderful spring and summer. Audiences who may be watching, I know where to find these folks. So if you are watching this later on our website, or if you're watching it now but haven't had a chance to jump in, feel free to email me at Marcella, 2 L's, at MilwaukeeChamberTheater.org. That's theater with an R-E. And I will ask them the questions that you have. Thank you again. Take care, everybody, and have a great night.